How do men start to have deeper conversations with other men? That's what we're going to talk about. Um, I believe that just about all guys feel a lot of things. And I think deep down, even though they may not be aware of it, they want to be able to talk about those things with the men in their life. They either, but I think many don't know how to approach those conversations, or they're scared to have them because of backlash. And there's good reason to think of the backlash because it's honestly a very real possibility, and many of us have already experienced it. So, with that, all that being said, welcome to the conversation. When we talk about men's mental and emotional health, I want these messages to get the conversation started and then keep them going. And in this case, this is going to be a very tactical conversation because these are going to be some things that you can think about and consider when you're wanting to have conversations with the other men in your life. Now, for anybody that will see this and be like, well, what about the conversations with women? We talk a lot about that on most of the other episodes. It's not just conversations that men have amongst themselves. However, every so often, I like to have an episode or a video where we actually are talking about this from a very tactical, practical way. One, because I think what we're going to talk about, a lot of men feel, and two, there are some helpful pointers on how to actually get this stuff started. And because getting it started is honestly the scariest part. Now, there are scary parts as being open and vulnerable, ongoing. There's some things that are really scary about it, but I mean, just getting the conversation started, and for most guys, this is very scary stuff. Like it really, because it's completely out of our lane. We're a lot of us are used to wanting to find solutions, right? That's even that's a stereotypical joke about men. We want to solve it, right? And this is something we want to solve, but we have absolutely no idea how to do any of this. Vulnerable. I'll tell you what, for the first couple of decades of my life, you wouldn't have heard me talk anything about vulnerability with anybody. I learned that it was just better to keep my mouth shut, right? Yeah, that's the stuff you don't talk about. But I think deep down, we all do want to talk about it. The thing is, like, a lot of us in our friend groups, we stick to a lot of the normal stuff. Sports, what's going on in the world, cracking jokes at each other, funny jokes, by the way. But how do we go deeper? And actually, the jokes, the sarcasm, are some of the things that are actually preventing us. We've learned to have a sharp tongue, and even if we wouldn't say it, a lot of times the reason we have the sharp tongue is like we want to be on the offense in the conversation. We want to jab them before they can jab us. Now, here's the thing: if you get something on your mind, something that you're thinking about and feeling, you don't just. It's not that you just like have to unload everything all at once. Now, for a lot of guys, we will want to unload it all at once because we don't know what to do with this stuff. We spent much of our time trying to convince ourselves we don't feel anything, and then we feel it, and we're like, "That's pretty intense. I got to get rid of it." Verbal vomit, right? But like, not every conversation has to be the deepest and the heaviest, but just going a little bit deeper, asking somebody how they are and saying, honestly. Or you can even say, if you're feeling something, be like, I'm really feeling something kind of heavy. Like, is it okay if we talk about it? Because you're not forcing what you're thinking or feeling on anybody. You're asking, but you're also setting the stage that you want to go a little bit deeper on things. And a lot of this just ends up being a natural extension of a conversation once you're comfortable enough to have it. And once you know that it's okay and feel, I'll use another word most men aren't going to use, safe enough to actually communicate your wants and your needs. But you can build it on top of all the other stuff that you talk about. Your sports, work, your interests, your hobbies, whatever those are, right? Um, and I think in a lot of conversations that we have, it's not going to be hard to do this because you're just going a little bit deeper. Because a lot of times we keep stuff very surface level because it's safer that way. You know, um, from a tactical standpoint, ask open-ended questions. Let somebody answer. Let somebody tell you. You don't have to fix it. If somebody's feeling something, you don't have to fix it. The fact that, and you know this if you think about what you're feeling, the fact that somebody's willing to listen, I think a lot of us would feel pretty good about that. So just listening is huge. You don't have to solve anything. Um, and it's scary, but a lot of times in a group, you're going to have to be the first one to set the tone on what this is going to look like. And again, there's a strong possibility you've tried to speak about how you think and feel before, and you may not have gotten a positive response. I totally get that. And it might even be with some of the same people, right? But I do think if we try to nudge the conversation in a little bit more of a deeper direction, I think it helps. And look, if you're continually getting signals from people that they don't want to go deeper than that, then that lets you know what kind of a dynamic you're going to have with that person or with that group of people. So then you just know that those aren't the friends that you open up with to that level. You find other people, which you are capable of doing. And I know a lot of times, like social, like making friends, we get a little scared about that, right? But you can do it. It's like the rest of the stuff, though. You just got to take practice. But yeah, you sometimes have to just take the step. It just ends up and like just have the conversation. Keep it as casual as you want. You don't have to. It doesn't have to get super serious. You might feel like it's lighting you up inside, but like just keep the conversation going. And you can always bring up something surface level to kind of back up out of it there in the moment. That can be kind of your ace in the hole, right? Broach it a little bit later. Maybe it wasn't the right time to have the conversation. Maybe you were nervous and you need to practice your delivery. Maybe they're just, again, like maybe they're having a bad day and they're in a headspace where they're not able to open up about it. So there's a lot of factors. It's but I do think if we do this gradually, because like if it ends up being kind of just a one-time thing, and then when you back up, like then everything's surface level again, that's not going to lead to change. But if you can lean into the fear that you have and the uncertainty and continue to try to have these conversations going, I do think it'll make a big difference. But you don't need to be perfect on this. You need to practice it, and it is really important. So if you have thoughts on how to start conversations, what's worked best for you, leave those in the comments. Yeah, if you're, it's what I have. So if you're listening on the podcast and you're still listening, thank you. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Once you're subscribed, go ahead and rate and review the podcast wherever it is that you're listening. On YouTube, if you're still watching, welcome. If you like what you're watching, go ahead and subscribe and then share the video. And then YouTube is telling you they think that you would like this video that is on screen right now. Go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but I wouldn't spend too much time on it. But anyway, that is what I have for you. Thank you as always for listening and watching. I'll talk to you again.